Hey yo guys, I'm back here to give you my TUF live finale predictions as well as my WWE Armageddon predictions. But before I get to that, I'm going to give you my overall impressions of this season of TUF, The Ultimate Fighter Season 8. In all honesty, I was a big fan of this season. Definitely this will rank up there with, in my personal opinion, seasons 1 and 5 as, being something that I could really enjoy. To me, this season was great, and not only, having characters, or I wouldn't say characters, but, people who, interested you and, added color to the show, having legit prospects who, could be contenders in the tough waters of the UFC, and I think most importantly, getting me to care about the next episode that would air, which is a rarity to do in the world of overexposure of not only mixed martial arts but pro wrestling, as it's hard for someone to care when there's so much of it on. That really lose all interest in it sometimes. I mean, you just watch it for the fights, but if there's a real reason to watch the show, then you're gonna enjoy it more. In all honesty, I don't know really why I enjoyed it, because when I knew they were doing another season, I was kind of groaning after how lackluster Season 7 was. I mean, there's nothing really to write home about. I mean, yeah, you got some good prospects, I guess, in the champion Amir Sadallah and CB Dollaway, but really you had nothing to write home about. No one had any charisma. A lot of people needed charisma bypasses. You don't really have that problem here. You're going to probably go with me. You're going to probably, well, there was some pranks on the show. I mean, there's always is with, urine and, semen. But still, Krzysztof Szczesnecki, who is, someone who played a big factor in all of these pranks, he added some color to the show and, added another reason to care, like how these pranks did go. Some of them did go over the line, but, this was nothing as opposed to previous seasons where it went, out of this world. Another thing, I guess, is that you had a person on this show in Junie Browning who you absolutely just wanted to get his ass handed to him in whatever. I mean, Junie was the type of guy that everyone loves because he talks so big about himself, and then when he goes in there and, has very disappointing performance up against Rolly Delgado, and then he had this little feud going with Efrain Escudero. I mean, it just added this great character type thing where, the guy that everyone wanted to see get his ass beat did get beat. I mean, it's the old school type heel in the world of pro wrestling, and that's exactly what Junie was. The only thing I will say is Junie was someone who's very interesting, and that's why they let him probably stay on in some of those events. If the UFC gets a bunch of people like Junie Browning who, really weren't the best fighters but great, will they keep him? I don't know, but it's definitely going to change the mindset of people who get on the show and, do far less, but have far less, infliction of damage or whatever to anyone on this show, but have, less charisma. They'll probably get kicked out. To me, I think that's just going to be, a thing to worry about there. I mean, the UFC knew what they were doing, but still, it's going to be a big factor when you have people for the next season who, do something. They get kicked off because, now you set a precedent with Junie Browning. Another thing that I thought made this show great was the coaches. Now you're going to be like, well, they really didn't do that much. They didn't have that much drama behind them. Which, you know what, it was, I mean, you sometimes need drama between the coaches. I mean, when you look at Tito and Ken's season, yeah, there was. But really, I think you have a pretty good heel versus babyface going into the Minotauro Nogueira versus Frank Mir fight at UFC 92. A lot of people don't know that much about Nog for UFC. I mean, we know a lot about him from, who really didn't pay attention that much to the Japanese scene in Pride. They don't really know that much about Antonio Minotauro Nogueira. Frank Mir came off, he wasn't the biggest heel, but when you compare him to how nice of a genuine person Nogueira is, people are now going to want to see this nice guy still remain UFC interim heavyweight champion. I mean, he just adds that great character. I mean, Frank Mir wasn't really that much of a prick, but, when it came down to it, sometimes, how mad he would get and, how great he says he's an athlete when they have to do that soccer challenge. Come on, it's going to add some intrigue there with, people wanting to see the nice champion retain his belt up against Mir, and then take on Lesnar, and probably want him to win because I know most MMA fans absolutely hate Brock Lesnar from the whole pro wrestling background, so it'll be very interesting there, and that's, you know, what I thought there. Also, I mean, I think one of the most important thing is the fact that we've grown some talent on this show. I mean, when you look at the people in the finals for tonight, I mean, you got Ryan Bader, Vinny Magalhaes, Efrain Escudero, and Phillipe. Those guys right there could do some damage in the UFC's not lightweight and light heavyweight division. Plus, you also have some guys who didn't win fights. I mean, you know, Dave Kaplan, I think, will do some good things in the UFC. You also got George Roop, who's, you know, a really good contender. I think Elliot Marshall will be a pretty good guy. You know, he just unfortunately got in there with Bader, who, you know, kind of laid and preyed on him. It was a boring fight, but I don't feel Bader is that type of fighter. But anyways, when you to season 7, when there's absolutely no character, you know, no real reason to watch the show, I think season 8 was a big hit. Will TUF 9 be a good one? I don't know. They've kind of changed the format with it being, you know, countries versus each other, which I think will be more interesting, but I mean, it all depends on if you have Henderson and Franklin win at UFC 93, and to me, you have Rich Franklin not wanting to be a coach on the show, so I mean, if he wins, I mean, everyone to win a fight, but if he wins, does he really like have cared that much to be a coach? That's how I really felt about this season. But then we move over to tonight and the TUF season finale. You know, with a lot of the fighters, most of the fighters, obviously, I mean the 2 contract fights, but you know, a lot of people are kind of upset that Junie Browning is on the main card. But to me, it makes sense. I mean, the most known, I mean, probably the most casual fans really didn't pay that much attention to it or heard it from, you know, various people. You probably know that much about Junie Browning, so that's why they put him on here. They put him up against, you know, Dave Kaplan, so that's going to be the first fight we go with here. And let's just get to it. First fight is Junie Browning versus Dave Kaplan. Junie, you know, when he was on the qualifying portion, he actually looked pretty impressive when he disposed. I can't remember who it was at the time, but still he looked very impressive and looked like he could be scary in the lightweight division. But then, you know, he started to, you know, talk, saying how great he was. There's no way you could submit him. You can't knock him out. He had that pretty disappointing performance. I mean, very lack of cardio up against Rolly Delgado. And then, you know, he went up in there against his nemesis and Efrain Escudero, who just choked him out. To me, I don't think he's going to be, you know, that great. If he gets his head right, which I think he may have because, you know, the show was taped in June, he's got a lot of time to get his act together and, you know, train for this upcoming fight. Because I bet you he knew that he was going to probably stick around for a while. But he's going up against a very tough Dave Kaplan, and the only thing that really prevents Dave Kaplan from not being in the TUF lightweight finals is the fact that he had to take on Philippe Nover in the preliminary round. So, you know, I think, you know, Kaplan, I think he's good, got good stand-up, and I think he can, you know, do some damage in the submission game. Junie, I'm not that sure about him, but I'm going to have to go with a third-round TKO with Dave Kaplan. I think he's definitely got the better cardio. Hopefully Junie's figured that out, that you need to have some strong cardio, but we'll see. But I'm picking Dave Kaplan to win this fight. And then we move along to the next bout, which is Jason the Athlete MacDonald versus Wilson Gouveia. Now, I have heard reports that apparently Wilson Gouveia missed weight by about, what, 4 pounds. To me, that's not the best thing there, but then again, this is a guy who used to be a light heavyweight contender, so we'll see. But anyways, this to me will be a pretty interesting fight, as this could be another UFC. Whoever lose, we're going to cut them from their contract as we're trying to slim our roster down. We don't know, because Jason the Athlete MacDonald, he was actually back at UFC 87 in a pretty intense ground battle with you know, one of the best ground guys in all of the UFC, and Damian Maia. Held his own there for a while, but then, you know, Maia's skills eventually took down MacDonald and choked him out. But then at UFC 88, you had MacDonald come back and get a victory up against Jason Lambert. That UFC decided to cut Jason Lambert of his contract, so this will be interesting. I personally will now Gouveia, you know, the former light heavyweight contender, you know, he can do some damage here in the middleweight division. I feel he can. I mean, he still has the skills to do it. I think maybe moving down, it may be tough for him to, you know, get used to the weight cut and all, but still, I think he can do some damage. Overall, how do I look at this fight? I mean, both guys are gonna They're good on the ground, but I don't think they're going to want to keep this one on the ground. I think they're going to want to keep this to be a striking battle, to get Fight of the Night honors and to, you know, keep their contract, because I think that could be a pretty interesting factor. You know, Jason, his nickname is the Jason is MacDonald's nickname is the Athlete, but I think Wilson Gouveia is a more athletic type fighter, so that's why I'm going to go with Gouveia to get a third round knockout. Then we have the next fight, which is a rematch from a previous Ultimate Fight Night, and that would be Kevin Burns versus Anthony Johnson. Now this is the infamous eye poke of doom incident where Burns accidentally poked Anthony Johnson in the eye, and Steve Mazzagatti didn't call it. He called it a TKO when it was just an accident. And, you know, to his credit, and to all people in, you know, that fight's credit, you know, Mazzagatti apologized to Johnson, saying, you know, it was his fault. You know, Johnson said, you know, that's okay. Burns even admitted that was an accident. But to me, Burns said, you know, that the accident happened because of the fact that, you know, he had a broken hand and he couldn't throw, you know, a closed-fisted jab. Well, to me, that's still going to beg the question is, now, can you throw a jab, you know, with a good arm? I mean, with a good hand, I don't know. Really, I mean, really, to me, this fight's going to be, you know, interesting if any type of eye poke or anything happens. I mean, there's going to be zero tolerance on anything of that nature. Hopefully you have Mazzagatti ref this fight so he can, you know, make up for the mistake that he made. To me, though, Anthony Johnson is a much better competitor than Kevin Burns. They're on different planets, and to me, Anthony Johnson, to, you know, move himself up and show himself to be a contender, absolutely must finish Kevin Burns in this fight. So I'm going to go with my prediction to be Anthony Johnson with a first round TKO. Has to be that way for Anthony Johnson. That's where I'm going. Anyways, then we move over to the finals of the tournament. We have the lightweight between Philippe Nover and Efrain Escudero. We'll go there first. I personally think this one will main event because how much hype Dana has on Philippe Nover. Anyways, let's move to that point. We all remember Dana thinking, you know, how much kind of a pussy Philippe Nover was. The show started when he fainted. Well, we don't have that problem now, as Philippe Nover has absolutely proven him to be, you know, one of the best contenders that this show, you know, ever produced. It's a big gem from the East Coast of the United States area, which is kind of weird because, you know, there's a lot of prospects that I've heard coming out from there, but I've never heard of Nover's name. But, you know, especially, and you have a lot of riding on you in Philippe Nover when you're called the lightweight version of Anderson Silva. That's a lot to live up to. But, you know, he's going up Efrain Escudero, who, in all honesty, I think it really sucks for Efrain, because Efrain's a good prospect himself, but I don't think he's going to come in here and damage Philippe Nover. To me, Nover has got tremendous striking, and he's also got exceptionally good jiu-jitsu, and that's where I'm going to have to lie. I mean, Efrain can keep this. If Efrain gets on the ground, he can maybe pull a submission. I mean, he's got some good jiu-jitsu as well, but he's nowhere near where Philippe Nover is. So I'm going to have to go with a second-round submission from Efrain Escudero. I mean, from not Efrain Escudero, Philippe Nover. Efrain is going to probably want to keep the fight standing, or keep it up, but I mean, he wasn't really proven that well on the stand-up. I shouldn't say he wanted to keep this. I think he clearly wants to put this on the ground, but he's still going to probably get caught. I mean, Efrain didn't really the best striking. I mean, he tried it out against Junie Browning, but if I'm Efrain, I don't want to try this more in my striking out with Philippe Nover. I think Nover prediction definitely will get the job done here. Then we move over to the last and final fight, which is the TUF 8 light heavyweight final. It's Ryan Bader versus Vinny Magalhaes. This is a very interesting fight as well. To me, I mean, both guys are tough prospects, as I've already said. Bader, he's fighting out of the Arizona Combat Sports with the likes of, you know, WEC lightweight champion Jamie Varner, the Steinbeck brothers, CB Dollaway, as I already mentioned, and WC welterweight champion Carlos Condit. So their job there is to take, you know, standout NCAA wrestlers and make them all-rounded MMA, which I think with Bader it's going to be a success. In Bader's fight with Elliot Marshall, he really just, took him down and lay on him. Not the most entertaining fight, but I feel that, Bader is someone who can, keep a fight standing for a while, and if he's developed some striking skills, he's going to be scary. Yeah, I think he has some striking skills, but if they continue to improve, he's going to be a lot better. He's got incredible power. I mean, you saw him knock out his one opponent in the prelim fights before the semifinals. I forget the name of the opponent there, but he absolutely, crushed him when he was on the ground. But, he's up against with Vinny Magalhaes, who is an incredible jiu-jitsu guy. So that's going to leave Bader not wanting to take this to the ground, where he's not going to want to have to, he doesn't have the really option of using his strength in the wrestling department where he can, pick Vinny up, slam for a takedown and, just lay on him, because Vinny can just come out of nowhere and put a submission on you, and that'll be it. So I don't think he's going to want it to keep it there. I think Bader's going to want to, probably he's trained a lot on the striking, so they're going to keep this one standing, and I think, it's better for Bader to keep it standing to avoid a chance of a submission. But overall, I think eventually this fight goes to the ground. When you're in there with a world-renowned jiu-jitsu guy in Vinny Magalhaes, it's going to go to the ground. You're going to get submitted, and that's how I see this one going. I mean, Bader, I definitely think is going to be a tough prospect. I mean, Bader will maybe get overzealous and decide to go for a takedown and then get caught, and that's how I see this one going. I mean, either striking, he'll get taken down by Vinny, or Bader will probably go for a takedown and get caught. So I think there's just no, I mean, you're in there with an anaconda. Let's basically put it that way. Vinny Magalhaes to get the victory. Then we move over to the world of professional wrestling with the final pay-per-view in the world of wrestling for 2008. And may I just say, I'm kind of happy that it's in that situation. I mean, there's been so many pay-per-views, but, I mean, at least we get the final one. Usually, this card is actually interesting because, they've kind of thrown some matches that you care about, but they've actually got some pretty interesting undercard, and there's only, like, a limited amount of matches, so we should get some good length matches, which will be, good as compared to how awful that last pro wrestling pay-per-view was. Anyway, let's start here. We start with Batista versus Randy Orton. This one's interesting. I mean, it actually has been anticipated by a lot of people. Maybe not me, myself, but I know a lot of people are interested in this match. And, this feud is actually good because, builds towards the rematch between Cena and Batista, which I see happening. And then, it just keeps Batista busy for a while. Hopefully, and this is how I see this one going. I mean, you got Orton in here who's developed this, win at any cost character where he sneaks out and pulls a victory and gets an RKO out of nowhere. I see this one sort of falling along the same lines where Batista, dominates. There'll probably be a in here. You have a Rhodes and Manu run in, and, Batista fends them off, but then, referee gets up and Batista bomb there, and that's how... RKO, and then that's how it ends, and, Orton gets the win. Batista then eventually, I guess, builds to a slow heel turn, and that's how we get the match for Cena and Batista, because Batista will probably win an Elimination Chamber at Nover. That's how I see this one going. Then we move over to the next match, which is a Belfast Brawl between Finlay and Mark Henry. This match has actually got a pretty good story to it. If you watch ECW, and I don't know why the hell you don't, I mean, it's a really good show for an hour. Even though the WWE really didn't care about it, it's a fantastic show. But anyways, this match here is going to be interesting as, the whole thing is the shillelagh, where Finlay's got numerous victories over Mark Henry with the use of the shillelagh, and, Mark Henry's basically out to get Finlay for, costing him many ECW championship chances with the shillelagh. So what I see happening here is Henry breaks the shillelagh, and that leaves Finlay, without the weapons, and, Henry, batters him down, and then Finlay will get a shillelagh from Hornswoggle, and Henry will finally get his revenge and use it on Finlay to get the victory. I mean, this actually could be a good match with, Henry being this monster who, fends off a lot of stuff. I mean, if there's color, I think it would add something to this, but, this is an ECW match, and WWE's not a big fan of color anymore. I see it going there. I mean, this could be a good match, and then, Henry could be this complete monster who, eventually becomes another contender for the ECW championship. He, beats Finlay and then finally gets to squash Hornswoggle. think that would be pretty interesting, and that can keep Hornswoggle and Finlay off TV for a while, as I think they kind of need a bit of a break. Then we move over to the next match, which is the final of the Intercontinental Championship Tournament in CM Punk versus Rey Mysterio. Really, this match should be good. There's no reason this company cannot give this 15 minutes. And you know what? It's a face versus face match. Even in this day, it's still pretty rare. We don't get it that often, but all in all, I mean, the match will be fine. I have no problem with this match, but clearly, I could potentially see another rep bump in here, as we would get a Mike Knox run-in who costs Mysterio after, you know, Punk is clearly down or blinded at some aspect. Mike Knox comes in, costs Mysterio, and then allows Punk to, you know, get a GTS or an something of that nature. Now, granted, he doesn't use the Anaconda Vice and fuck knows when, but, you know, Punk will get the win because, you know, they've always, ever since this tournament began, they were clearly trying to build Regal versus Punk, and I would say that Punk would win the Intercontinental Championship on the final Raw show of 2008 again in Toronto. I won't be there, but I see that happening there, and, you know, Punk basically slammy speech said, "I'm gonna win the Intercontinental Championship." Basically, that's where they go with there. And it also depends where you go for CM Punk in here. I mean, if CM Punk wins, I mean, it's not the greatest thing. I mean, you're the Intercontinental Champion. They don't care about this belt. I mean, at least they tried with the prestige of this to bring back the prestige of this belt, but it was more to plug their DVD more than anything. But, I mean, if you win, you know, you're in the greatest place, but, you know, you actually have some hope. But if you lose, you lost in the finals of the Intercontinental Championship Tournament. So, I mean, with Rey, I mean, he can bounce back many a time. And also you have to look at the fact Punk has a long-term contract. Rey does not. Punk gets the victory there. Then we move over to the ECW champion, or the non-title ECW championship match. Shouldn't say it's not for the ECW championship, which I guess is a good thing, but it's champion Matt Hardy versus Vladimir Kozlov in a non-title match. I do wish this was for the ECW championship. I mean, if you're gonna have the ECW champion on pay-per-view, might as well have his belt on the line, if more than anything. And it does feel like they try to take away, you know, the little program that Hardy and Henry had to actually make this belt mean something. Hell, even, you know, taking away the programs that, you know, Morrison and Punk had for it. This belt doesn't have that much prestige, but hey, I mean, more importantly, the Hardy-Henry program tried to make this belt mean something to the, you know, the fans or the average fans who, you know, have nothing to do between the hours of 9 and 10 who tune into ECW. So, to me, this hurts it. Hopefully, this match will be good. The last match these guys had was actually good, but it was more to tell a story in the beat the clock situation with Hardy not wanting to wrestle. He just tried to get away. So that's why it was good, because Kozlov didn't wrestle. The last match, the last pay-per-view match with Kozlov really was atrocious with Triple H. I mean, that was some of the worst 10 to 12 minutes I'm never going to get back. That really sucked. So this is also a big factor for Kozlov. If Hardy can pull out a good match at a Kozlov, maybe there's some hope for Kozlov, but I personally don't see there being any. I mean, it would also kind of be sad because it would show how much of a superior worker Matt Hardy is than Triple H. Because Triple H, you know, who's supposed to be this great worker, couldn't get this match out of Kozlov, and Matt Hardy did. Goes to show something there. But really, you gotta have Hardy go over. But this company has something in Kozlov. I don't know what, but they like Kozlov. I would see Kozlov getting the win and retaining. The match and just trying to get a potential title shot. Hopefully we get a title shot there. Maybe going into the Rumble, but I don't know. I don't know where we'll go with that because, you know, to me there's a lot of actual contenders for the ECW belt in Mark Henry if he wins, and we got Jack Swagger, who I think should be on pay-per-view more than a Kozlov. Anyways, then we move over to the two final matches when you got the World Heavyweight, the WWE Championship in Edge versus Triple H versus Jeff Hardy triple threat match. Really, I'm enjoying this feud where you just have Edge talking and trying to add some tension, more tension between Triple H and Jeff Hardy. Good feud. They had a good match last night on SmackDown. You know, something, I shouldn't say good, it was actually a really good match. Something superior to their pay-per-view match where Triple H, you know, pinned Hardy when he rolled through the Swanton. I can't remember the name of the pay-per-view. I think it was Unforgiven. I don't think that was Unforgiven. But anyways, that was a good match, but I still like how they've been building it. Clearly, I mean, they just do a good job with having Edge trying to antagonize, and, you know, the Triple H and Jeff Hardy come to shambles there. To me, how this one happens, Edge still be the ultimate opportunist. We don't take the belt off Edge. Edge needs to be in the same type of run he was in last year at this point, where he actually won the belt at Armageddon, but still goes into be champion into the year and does not drop the strap until WrestleMania. I feel that's the perfect time for Edge to drop the belt again. How do you have this one go down? Well, it's basically you let Triple H actually eat a swanton and you know, look like he's done. Then you have Edge come in, roll up Hardy, and get the win, or something of that nature, a spear or something. I don't think we go back to a Triple H and Edge program. I think, you know, that won't be the best thing. I mean, the history between Hardy and Edge is just so big that I think it's going to be way better for the company. And also, Jeff Hardy's doing some of the best stuff of his career with this, you know, weird type-ish character. I think they need to keep that going. Lead it to the Rumble, where your first two are Triple H and Jeff Hardy. They brawl it out, and, you know, it'll probably, the final two would be a Batista and Jeff Hardy type situation, but I'm way booking long-term here. Edge gets the title. Then we move over to the next match, which is the main event. The World Heavyweight Championship's on the line as John Cena defends belt against Chris Jericho. Really, Jericho's been cutting some good programs, but I'm not that interested in this match. I don't know why. I don't know really why. I mean, I clearly expected Cena to get the belt back at Survivor Series. I mean, I think everyone did. But, I mean, there's just been something, I guess, missing. Their matches could be a lot better. I think maybe Cena did rush back way too soon. I think that hurt him a bit. He's still trying to get back into the ring. I mean, he's working those house shows, and he's had, you know, matches with at least some good workers, with, you know, the likes of Kane and whatnot. But this match, I think, will be, you know, pretty good. I think Jericho will carry Cena to a much better match than what they had at Survivor Series. I mean, that was Cena's first match back, so let's give him a break there. But still, Cena will come out. You know, he'll give it his best as well. I think it'll be a better match than Survivor. Maybe not by much. I guess that's what I should think. Clearly, I'll go with Cena to retain, but maybe by some weird measure, as these two have been working street fights on house shows, which I think is clearly how you start the Rumble off. Have a street fight in Detroit. Detroit's always a great city to have this, and you know, their kind of feuds been them brawling around the arenas on Raw. So I think that'll be, you know, some interesting there. Cena wins, but hopefully doesn't win clean. Hopefully some sort of wacky interference or something like that, where, you know, he wins or something of that nature. But I wouldn't make this match main event. As much as Raw is important, I would have this be the second from last, where you can actually have some DQ or some type of finish where we need to have a rematch, and we should care about the rematch. That's where I would go with there. Anyways, that's it for me. I'm out. Peace.